Good morning. I'm Charles Edwards, Assistant News Director and reporter for 90.1 FM WABE, and we'd like to welcome our viewers to our Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young debate series originating from Rhodes Hall, which is the headquarters for the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation. This is the primary runoff debate among the Republican candidates for Cobb County Commission Chair. Let's meet the candidates. They are in alphabetical order. Bill Byrne. He's the former Cobb County Commission Chair. He's also a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps and owns Byrne Design Group, a planning firm. There's also Tim Lee, who serves as the current Cobb County Commission Chair. He was first elected to office in 2002 as District 3 Commissioner. Now, Mr. Lee declined to participate today, so he is represented by an empty chair. Here is the format for today's debate. Since we only have one candidate, we'll start by asking the candidate two questions. The candidate will then ask a question to his opponent, represented by the empty chair. The panel will finish asking questions of the candidate until we run out of time. Our candidate will then have 30 seconds to make a closing statement. And before we get started, let's meet our panelists selected by the Atlanta Press Club. We have Jim Burris, who is a reporter and host of Weekend Edition on 90.1 FM WABE. And we also have Devin Feely, a reporter for 11 Alive. Now let's get started with the debate. In the first round, our candidate will be asked two questions by our panel. Then candidates have 60 seconds to answer. By random selection, Devin Feely will ask the first question.
Mr. Byrne, as recently as 4 years ago, you had attempted to qualify for a race in Polk County. This is one of the things that your opponent has been using against you in this election. It is part of the transcript from a hearing to see if you could qualify for that race. And I quote, "The last thing I want to do is live in Cobb County, let alone serve in Cobb County. I want to make damn sure that Cobb County doesn't move to Polk County." My first question would be, did you say those things? And if you did, why should someone in Cobb County vote for someone that talks about the county and its residents disparagingly?
That's a good question, and I appreciate that opportunity to answer. Yes, I did say that, but it was taken out of context. A question to me as a potential candidate for office in Polk County is, would I bring the philosophies and policies from Cobb County to Polk County? And Polk County is a dramatically different county than Cobb is. At that time, there were only 38,000 people. It's a very rural county. They still farm for a living there and don't even have a sewer system countywide. My concept to them was, you cannot bring Cobb to Polk. You have to build on what it is you are, not what it is you want to be. And I made that analogy.
All right, our next question comes from Jim Burris of WABE.
Mr. Byrne, you've said tackling Cobb County's biggest issues, which are the economy and property values, are your top priorities. And to do that, you want to get the county budget under control by reducing property taxes. So how can you shore up a budget by cutting its main source of funding?
Well, there are two ways, and that is our focus. We are in the middle of a recession. We, the country, our state, our county. Cobb County is no different. We've had a variety of issues to deal with. Our present chairman, Tim Lee, raised taxes 6 different times in a 15-month period of time. You don't raise taxes on people and businesses in the middle of a recession. In that same period of time, the unemployment rate today in Cobb County, total unemployment, is at 16%. Our foreclosures are at record level. Property values have been reduced in value by 1/3 to the level of 2003. Property tax revenues are a reflection of value. So the revenues are going to decrease. The impact on government has to be proportional to the monies available to run it, not increasing the taxes on people who are losing their homes, losing their hope, and losing their opportunities.
And obviously, Tim Lee is not here to defend, and he is represented by an empty chair because he declined to participate in the debate. And since Bill Byrne's opponent, as I said, Tim Lee, declined to participate today, Bill will now ask a question to his opponent, represented by an empty chair. And Bill, you will have time for it.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues as a region and as the county we have all had to face was what is referred to as the T-Splost. And this would be the question relative to that I would have asked Tim Lee if he was here. After all of the work and the effort that you put into designing the T-Splost project list for Cobb County and campaigning for it, promoting it, why are you now denying that you even supported the proposal?
And again, Tim Lee declined to participate in today's debate, so he is represented by the empty chair. For those who may be joining our program in progress, this is the debate among the candidates in the Republican primary runoff election for Cobb County Chair. As I said, Tim Lee declined to participate in the debate and is represented by an empty chair. We now return to our panel of journalists who will ask questions to Bill Byrne, and Bill will be allowed 60 seconds to respond to each question, and we begin this round with a question from Jim Burrs.
Let's keep on the T-Splost issue. You voted against T-Splost. Cobb County does not pay into the MARTA system, and traffic there is among the worst in the region, especially in East Cobb. Where do you go from here, and is transportation a top concern for Cobb County?
It has to be the number one concern for any county in a growing region like the Atlanta region. But our region is far greater than 10 counties. It's at least 20 if you're in the planning business. Transportation has to be the number one priority, not only to move people, but defining economic development as to where it is you want it to be in the future, and by contrast, where you don't. So it has to be a continuing focus. I opposed a T-Splost for three fundamental reasons. Number one, I felt and still do that House Bill 277 is clearly unconstitutional. I have urged our legislative delegation to draft legislation coming up this January to eliminate, if you will, House Bill 277 and start over with a workable regional proposal that can provide regional solutions that people can buy into. Transportation has got to be the number one issue, and those kinds of decisions can be best made in a recessionary period of time.
All right, Bill, your time for that question is up, and now a question from Devin Feely from 11 Alive.
You have suggested recently that perhaps the community of East Cobb should at some point in the future consider whether or not it should incorporate and become its own city. It seems to me to be a somewhat strange stance to take for someone who is on the county commission, because I would imagine that if you were doing your job, that there would not be a level of dissatisfaction with the status quo that people would want to break away. So why should there be a city of East Cobb?
Well, I appreciate that question. I don't know if I can answer that in 60 seconds, but I'll try. My motive is not like the justifications for the last 3 or 4 cities that have been created. This is not a service delivery issue. Cobb County delivers services in a most professional way throughout the county. This is a local control issue. While I was chairman, I heard from many groups, homeowner groups, business groups, civic groups, at zoning hearings, their opposition to a variety of zonings, whether it's too dense, too much traffic, too many people, impacting our schools, impacting our parks, don't do it, and they get passed. What this allows, if we were to create, and I would have put together an exploratory committee to implement a 5-point program. The concept is local control. If the city of East Cobb were created with a mayor and 5 city council people, the residents of that city can get to them a lot easier than they can get to the 5 of us.
All right, next question comes from Jim Burrs, WABE.
Let's stay on that topic. The Marietta Daily Journal has a reader poll on its website about the proposed city for East Cobb. Only 19% who voted said it was a good idea. And so my question is, creating the city a good idea? And if it is, why such lackluster support?
Well, lackluster support because Marietta Daily Journal created a poll and asked people a question they'd heard nothing about. I would have said no to it as well. When you explain the justification for it, and that this is not a mandate, but to begin a discussion of ideas, then the interest changes dramatically. I have a 5-point program that I hope we can discuss as we go on. that which people can consider. This is not a mandate. It is not something that can or would be imposed. It would ultimately, as previous cities have been created, a vote of the people that would be impacted by it. So it's a discussionary period. The East Cobb portion of Cobb County will become the first portion of our county, as history clearly defines, that is going to begin the growth process a second time. Before that happens, passing on how they want their community to look like in the future should be their decision.
All right, our next question comes from Devin Feely of 11 Alive.
Well, I think my question would be, you have been, at points in your career, a somewhat polarizing figure, not afraid to take controversial stances. Your opponent has said that some of those stances, in particular, an anti-gay resolution that was signed during the time of the 1996 Olympics and ultimately cost Cobb County a part of that Olympics, that his point of view is that we should not go a second term with someone who can be so divisive and polarizing. Your response?
Good question. I appreciate that. As you'll notice, Tim isn't talking about his track record. He's talking about mine. That sends a clear message. The resolution that you are referring to was exactly that. That's an opinion of the majority of Board of Commissioners. It was not intended to be, nor was it ever, a policy statement from Cobb County. A district commissioner by the name of Gordon Wysong introduced that resolution, and it was a vote of 4-1, and it was a comparative analysis of belief. Do you believe in the concept of the traditional family value, or do you support the comments and concepts of the growing gay rights agenda? I voted for that resolution. The response in 1996 from Billy Payne and the Olympic Committee was to remove volleyball from Cobb County because of that position. That didn't remove all the assets and benefits that came from it.
And that is our last question for that round. We have no more time for questions. Each of the Republican candidates in the runoff election for Cobb County Commission Chair will now have 30 seconds for a closing statement. Since Tim Lee declined to participate, Bill Byrne will make his closing statement.
It is very discouraging and disappointing that Tim Lee is not here to participate in this debate. This is not the first, nor will it be the last. He has refused to debate me 4 times in the closing weeks of this campaign. That's his choice. My choice is to be here. His choice is not. On August 21st, I ask for your help, your support, and your vote. And I assure you on the 22nd, I'll be there for you as well. And thank you.
That concludes our debate. We'd like to remind voters that the primary runoff elections will be held on Tuesday, August 21st. Our thanks to the candidates and our panel of journalists. We'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club for arranging today's debate and Rhodes Hall, the headquarters for the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation, for hosting us. For more information about Rhodes Hall, you can go to rhodeshall.org. And for more information about Georgia Trust, you can go to georgiatrust.org. I'm Charles Edwards. Thanks for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series.